Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Hi guys, thank you for joining me. It's Regan again. I will be joined by Michael and Alistair in a few minutes. Great to have you on board. We're going to talk about the Scottish Trophy this weekend. We've got a lot of matches to speak about. Obviously, I think Hearts are playing tonight against Brechin, so that'll be a good match to talk to Michael about. But I just thought I would pop on, obviously, because it's 5 o'clock. But so I hope everyone's doing well. I don't know if it's too late to say Happy New Year, but anyway. But I think overall, obviously we didn't do a midweek locker room after the matches, so I'll just go over it. Rangers beat Aberdeen by 3-0, and Celtic drew 3-3 with Dundee. Now, I want to talk about that Celtic and Dundee game for me straight off, because I thought that was a great game for entertainment. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant game to watch. Celtic and Dundee, I felt like both teams went at it. And okay, I've heard people the last couple of days talk to me about Celtic didn't reach the standard, but I thought Dundee were brilliant on the night. Alistair is back for a brand new year. Alistair, Happy New Year. I know it's
Thank you,
the 5th of January, but anyway, you can never be too late.
Thank you very much. I'm just about reacclimatised to the absolute ice hole that is Scotland compared to where I was on holiday. So,
did you enjoy your holiday? Did you enjoy time with family?
I did. Thank you very much. It was very good. Apart from watching the football results coming in, which thoroughly depressed me, but apart from that, it was brilliant.
Oh, that's brilliant. Alistair, I was just talking there about the midweek games, because we obviously didn't do a locker room midweek. I just first of all want to go into the Celtic and Dundee match. I felt there's been a little bit of disrespect from Celtic supporters and Scottish football supporters in general, in terms of expecting too much from Celtic and Rangers to just show up in these games. It's so difficult for these teams, Alistair, just to show up. I felt Dundee played really well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, Dundee have taken points off Rangers and Celtic, obviously drawn obviously with both of them recently, and Dundee on their day are a very good team. So, was it a surprise? Yes, I'll be honest, it was a surprise. I watched the scores coming in, and I was thinking, this is actually, the bookies will be loving this, because that's not what they're expecting. I actually got a friend who's a Dundee fan who actually had money on. I think he's due to win quite a bit of money at one point. Although obviously at the end of the day that didn't happen. So, it was it a surprise? Yes. But was I surprised? Not really. I think you're right. There's a tendency, apologies to all the Old Firm fans out there, but there is a tendency, best exemplified maybe by Chris Boyd on the telly, who thinks that, Rangers should steamroll these wee teams. Some Celtic fans say the same things. By and large, they're right. They should. Of course they should. They've got about, zillions times more money, much, much better players. But Dundee are a good team, and they've proven that this year. I'll be interested to see how they get on in the derby against Dundee United soon. That's going to be a good game.
Alistair, I think you're correct there, but I think sometimes the Old Firm fans can be a bit fickle. Okay, I've got one persuasion of the Old Firm, as you probably know. No, Alistair, but I like to see myself as fairly balanced. I thought Dundee started the game really well. I felt like probably Celtic should have been 2-0 up in the first 10 or so minutes, but I felt after the first half an hour, Dundee kind of grew into the game.
Yeah, I think, again, as I said just a minute ago, if you look at the two teams on paper, Celtic are going to win 9 times out of 10. I can't remember, there was not some stat that Dundee hadn't beaten Celtic for, I don't know, since the, Pope was an altar boy or whatever euphemism you want to use. That was one of those ones,
But I think Dundee have never beat Celtic at home, but it would have been the first Dundee win, because I think their last bet Celtic at Celtic Park 36 years ago.
Good grief. Yeah, I knew it was a lot. As regards the question of I think most, in my experience, and I've got a lot of friends who are Celtic and Rangers fans, maybe it's just the ones that I'm friendly with, but they're absolutely fine. You don't have any problem, and you don't have any of the stuff which we all know that accompanies both those teams. And they're actually at the game, of course, they're partisan. Expect nothing else. They're going to support their team. That's what you'd expect, and they're going to get disappointed when their team doesn't win. But I think in the cold light of day, like you're saying, I mean, Dundee deserve a lot of credit for the way they played, and the way they actually stuck at it, and the way they were looking like they were going to win until the last minutes of the game. So I'm entirely agree with you from that point of view.
Because I think as well, we need to remember that in terms of Dundee, I think they had also 10 players out. So, but the one thing I didn't like, Alistair, was, I don't know if you've seen it, but the guy Donnelly scores to put Dundee 3-2 up, and he refuses to celebrate.
I just, do you know what? I kind of don't get this, because fans, I've seen this with also not just Moan Club, but other clubs where people come back and then they don't celebrate because now, if it's somebody maybe who's spent their entire career at a club and they're really associated with that one club, then I kind of get it. But most footballers are mercenaries. Let's be honest. I'll give you an example, just to make it controversial. Maurice Johnson. There's a guy who I seem to remember celebrating in both green and white and blue and white. So that's what they're paid for. They're professionals. In many respects, you get famous instances. You're too young to remember this, but there was the famous Dennis Law relegating Man United.
As well, you're right, aye.
Yeah, now he didn't celebrate, but that's an occasion when, as I said, they've got somebody who's absolutely associated for life with that club. It'd be like, say, John Gregg, for example. Let's say he'd gone to Hearts after his Rangers career. Now, John Gregg grew up as a Hearts fan, and he'd then scored a goal against Rangers. Would he have celebrated? I could understand if he didn't, given his Rangers career, but as a Hearts fan, he probably would have. Listen, who knows? I think you should. There's not enough goals in the game at the best of times, so actually, of course, you should celebrate them.
And also, I just want to then go on to, what do you make it Celtic's defending? Because I thought Trusty in particular wasn't great.
I think it's all relative, to be honest, Regan. I think you can look at it and you can go, "Oh, yeah, wasn't great." Bearing in mind that I support a team who couldn't defend, whatever euphemism you want to sort of put in mind. I mean, it looks pretty good compared to our defence, I can tell you that. Any defender can have an off day. The problem is, it's like goalkeepers. Goalkeepers, they get slated when they make a mistake. And I always think it's really unfair, because strikers tend not to. If a striker misses a chance or hits the post, and unless it's an absolute sitter, they don't get the same abuse as defenders do. And I just don't think, I understand it, but yeah, I think you're being slightly hard on the Celtic defence. They're allowed the occasional off day, and I think you need to give credit to the opposition as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. No, so I've heard a lot of talk over the past week or so about players in general. Adamida, and that he's went something like 12 or 14 games without scoring a goal. Well, of course it's going to affect him, but I think in terms of him, I think he showed last year what he's able to do for Celtic. Alistair.
Yes, I think that's true, because he's come on in some big games. He's tended to come on off the bench and score. Now, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's the impression I get of him. I think of him as somebody who comes on and is actually a goal threat. Again, it's a reflection maybe of where Scottish football is, that Celtic and Rangers are taking clubs from the second tier in England. So they're good players. I'm not saying they're not, but it's not Henrik Larsson we're talking about here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Obviously, we'll move on to the next match during the week, and that was Rangers 3, Aberdeen 0. Did you manage to see this game?
I was out and I saw the second half, and I didn't. But did I think? I thought it was a turkey shoot. I thought Aberdeen were shockingly bad. I don't know. What did you think?
To be honest with you, Alistair, I thought Aberdeen were really bad. But the longer the game went on, I thought Aberdeen could try and sneak this to get a point. But I just want to ask you, obviously you may know it because of St Johnstone at the moment, but I don't know. There must be like some sort of issue at Aberdeen, because how can they go from winning everything? Well, I think I read a stat the other day from the first 11 games, they won 10 and drawn one, and the one they drew was against Celtic. How can they go from and then the next 11 matches not to win any?
Well, that's an interesting and topical point, because I had lunch yesterday with some senior football people, and this subject came up, and one of them, who's quite senior in the SFA, made the point that Aberdeen actually had one of the easiest opening set of fixtures that he could remember for a long time, right? And he went over them, and I kind of get his point. So they did have, on paper, relatively easy opening fixtures, which allowed them to get up ahead of steam. Why they've collapsed so much, I have no idea, because, there's an Aberdeen team that went to, play Rangers previously and beat them. You saw what they did against Celtic when they came back against Celtic, and then Celtic had them in the semi-final of the League Cup, and you could see Celtic going, right, we're going to show you guys, and I was at that game, and they absolutely floored Aberdeen.
Yeah,
so, and I think that's unlike you. I was there as a neutral, I may say, but having lived in Aberdeen for a long time, I suppose if I had to take anybody's side, I would have probably taken Aberdeen, but they were just steamroller by Celtic. And on their day, Celtic, much more so than Rangers, will destroy anybody in Scottish football. Absolutely hammer them, because they're just so much better. So Rangers, I'll tell you one thing I thought, Regan, I'm interested in your views on this. I thought that the way Aberdeen were playing just illustrated the stupidity of clubs at our, most levels, trying to play it from the back. Every time I'm trying to play at the back, they just gave the ball away, and Rangers got it off them. But would you agree with that?
And I think especially because they know that they're under, they've got they're very low in confidence as well. You see, when you're low in confidence, that's not when you play balls from the back. That's when you play it safe.
Yeah,
steady.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. I can think of a team that's quite low in confidence just now, which I'm going to go and watch tomorrow. And the problem is that because the confidence is lacking, the players are almost frightened of making a mistake, but they're told, excuse me, they're told to play the ball from the back, and then it goes wrong, and then the confidence just takes the other hit. I think you're right what you said earlier on. Aberdeen, I couldn't see them getting a goal, but because it was only 1-0, there's always the danger that might happen. If you're a Rangers fan, I'm sure that'd be what you'd be worried about. But actually, at the end of the day, the 2 goals Rangers scored at the end put a fair reflection on the game. Rangers were a lot better. Aberdeen were very poor, and Rangers deserved to win absolutely thoroughly.
Yep, and as we say that, an Aberdeen fan just popped in. Dave, it's good to see you, mate. How are you?
You be okay?
Doing well. David, it's a happy new year. How you been?
I'll tell you what it is, Regan. Sorry, you might hear some cars in the background. I'm in Brecon Town Centre.
Are you doing the Hearts and Brecon game tonight?
I'm covering the Brecon Hearts game. I thought I'd just come on and say hi to you guys.
Oh, brilliant, mate.
Well, you've timed it well, because we're just talking about your team.
We were just talking about Aberdeen.
Were you just speaking about the game just now?
Yeah, we're just talking about Aberdeen, yeah.
We're there tomorrow, aren't they, Regan? I'm apprehensive about that game tomorrow at Elgin. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah? You still don't think the game...
I'm apprehensive about that game tomorrow at Elgin. No word of a lie.
Dave, see what we've got you on the show, mate. See, in terms of Aberdeen, right? Well, obviously, I was saying to Alistair there, Aberdeen started off so well, but what do you think's happened to them?
Yeah, I think I'll get my headphones on in a minute, guys, but I think in terms of Aberdeen for tomorrow, I know Elgin quite well. I know the setup at Elgin quite well. And I think for Aberdeen, they're not going to find it easy tomorrow. There's for imagination. I think it's going to be a tough assignment for Jimmy Toyne's side. I think it's going to be extremely tight, and I think in terms of Aberdeen, tomorrow, I think they're going to be up against it. You just hold on a minute, Regan. I'm just going to put in some headphones.
No worries, Dave. Alistair, I just wanted to ask you then. Do
Right,
you think
apologies to the listeners for the technical difficulties. Is that better, Regan?
yes, better? That's much better, Dave. Alistair,
Aye, it's right to say. You heard all the cars in the background. I was like, "Oh bugger! I've got headphones in my bag."
Alistair, I just want to
Right,
ask
for the context of the listeners, you'll still hear the cars, but you'll not hear them as much as you did about a minute ago.
No problem, Dave. I'm just asking Alistair a question at the moment. In terms of Alistair, in terms of Aberdeen tomorrow, do you think in terms of the Scottish Cup, the last time they played a lower league tie, they played Glasgow, Alistair, do you think that could play on the players' minds, Alistair?
Well, seeing as how I live about half a mile from Darvel, in fact, about 400 yards from Darvel, I remember that quite well. But I remember the huge queue of Aberdeen fans going past the house, not looking very happy. So I apologise for that. But the answer to your question is no. I don't think it will. I think, despite Dave's concern, I think Aberdeen will win reasonably comfortably. And I know that's that's so he doesn't agree with me. So I know that's a hostage to fortune, but you always worry about your own team, especially when you're playing a lower division team. I will be surprised if Aberdeen don't win that. They couldn't afford another Darvel, let's put it like that. And to be fair to Elgin City, they're obviously a better team than Darvel. Darvel was probably the biggest shock in my well, not much of my life, but I think probably in Scottish football history. I would put it bigger than Rangers and Berwick Rangers. The gap was that much bigger. So I think that's not going to happen again. And I think Aberdeen, despite the fact that they were really poor against Rangers, will still be far too strong for Elgin.
I think just to elaborate on what Alistair said there, I think Aberdeen will win tomorrow. Let me put that out there now. My mates are going to hate me for saying that because my mates are the manager and assistant manager at Elgin. I played under the Elgin manager for a wee spell, and I know the assistant manager quite well. But I think in terms of tomorrow, I'm expecting us to be relatively comfortable within the game. Not relatively comfortable across the whole 90 minutes of the but I think we'll be relatively comfortable in the game overall. I think Elgin, they've done tremendously well, but if we've got any aspirations of doing well this season, we've got to take this game seriously tomorrow. I mean, I think it's a relevant point to make here, Riga, but Hibs beat Elgin 5-0 in the Premier Sports Cup at Borough Biggs earlier this season. I think in terms of Aberdeen, I think they've got to be professional. I'd like to see us make some changes tomorrow. I know Joe Harper's been in a column saying that he thinks youngster Fletcher Boyd should play tomorrow. I'm all for it because I think there's a repetitiveness about Aberdeen just now. I think there's a staleness about Aberdeen just now that naturally comes with obviously not winning games. But that's part and parcel of obviously not winning every week. But then the run we've been on, I've not been in here in a while. The run we've been on is incomprehensible as far as I'm concerned. I know that's a big word to use here, but every team in the SPFL apart from Aberdeen has picked up 3 points since Aberdeen last won. Aberdeen last won against Dundee in November. So I think we need to get back on the bike. But get on the bike. Do you know what, Regan? I'll take it. I don't think it'll be as brutal as this, but I would take a 1-0 89th minute winner tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that just sums up where Aberdeen fans are. Alistair, I'll get your prediction for that match then, since Dave's on.
Okay, right, no pressure whatsoever. I think Aberdeen will win by at least 3 goals.
Okay, and I'll go 4-0 to Aberdeen. Dave, see, because you're at Brecon, I think we should move on to that match tonight. So you're looking forward to being at the match tonight, Dave?
Absolutely. I was having my supper, and then Michael McEwen told me to come on here, so I'm currently having my supper. But they gave me so much food that I've held some back for another 10 minutes, so I can go and speak to you guys. But yeah, in terms of the game tonight, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think for Brecon, they're obviously doing relatively well in the high league just now. I think for Hearts, I think they're improving all the time under Neil Critchley. I think you're seeing steady progression under Neil in terms of the performances. Do you know what the one thing is that is a big talking point from this point of view, Regan? I think it's the fact they've not been playing Shankland. I think that's got a big part to play with it. I think Kabanga played a massive part in Hearts get the results they have recently, but also the signings that are imminent for Critchley. I think they're going to play a massive part. I mean, Jamie McCart, I thought Aberdeen on Sunday played very, very, very well. They look like they're going to bolster their defensive setup. I mean, Halkett played on Sunday, didn't he? But it looks like Hearts are bringing in a defender from Austria, is it? Yeah, I think in terms of Hearts, it's not a transition phase for Neil Critchley, but I think there's a lot to like about Hearts moving forward. And I've seen Hearts get St Johnstone. I was there reporting on that game. I was telling people that I was impressed by Hearts because they won ugly. They won in a way that is unnatural from how fans would normally expect teams to win football matches. And that's what I liked about Hearts. I know St Johnstone are in a perilous position just now, but irrespective, I think Hearts, I like what I've seen. And pardon me, Hearts to win this tonight, but I went 3-1. I'll go 3-1 Hearts tonight.
Dave, I want to ask you, obviously, because you're working on the game, I'm not going to say that me and Alison know every Beacon player that is playing tonight, but so who should people be looking out for then if we're watching the match?
I don't know if you're aware of this, guys, but Killian Sheridan plays for Brecon.
I think I'd picked that up, actually, yes. I remember Sheridan when he was playing for us. Mind you, that was quite a long time ago, and he's been a good player in the past.
Yeah,
so there's Killian Sheridan. There's Ewan Spark. He's a fullback. And for those who don't know, Ewan Spark he plays for Brecon. He's the captain of Brecon. But he runs a coffee shop in Brecon. And his business partner is John Suter. So that's a bit of information for you. So, yeah, that's obviously interesting. You've got...
So what you're saying is, Dave, if Brecon win tonight, you'll not be drinking pints, it'll be coffee they'll be drinking.
Well, you could say that. I've seen a few pubs here, so there's loads of pubs in Brecon, that's for sure. But I think there'll be a few coffees as well. I wouldn't mind a coffee at 10 o'clock if it goes to penalties tonight, to be honest with you, because we'll flipping need it.
See, in terms of Brecon, Dave, obviously you're going there tonight. How big are we expecting the crowd to be?
It's sold out, Regan. It's 4,500. I think Brecon had... I'm trying to get the maths here. I think Brecon had 2,500 tickets sold, and I think Hearts have just sold just shy of 2,000 as well. So, no, in terms of the crowd tonight, it's a full house. Obviously, BBC Scotland covering the game, full press house as well. So, it'll be busy tonight. It's obviously, as you've heard, bit of cars beeping. It's been quite busy in the town centre. I don't know if it's usually this busy in Brecon on a Friday night, but it's been busy in Brecon, that's for sure just now. So, no, that's obviously going to be good for tonight. And by the way, just to point on your last question, Regan, I don't know, well, you guys all know this, but not a lot of people will know. The manager is Patrick Craig, ex-Hibs and Johnston midfielder. Good player in his heyday, so doing very, very well at Brecon as well, I must say. Was assistant manager at Dundalk, St Patrick's Athletic, and coming into Brecon and the Ambitious Club and stamping his authority on the side.
Aye, Dave, I just want to ask you in terms of Brecon finally, do you think they can genuinely cause an upset tonight, or do you think Hearts will see through it?
I've seen Brecon a few times, not in the flesh, but I've seen Brecon a few times in terms of watching stuff in telly, watching stuff through various sources, and I think for Brecon, they're on a good side on their day, and you can never say never. I mean, a lot of the chat around Hearts this week has been a bit Brora, about how Brora beat Hearts during COVID, and how that was a big result, and considering how Brora had hardly played because of the COVID restrictions at the time, and there was a big emphasis on that for both Neil Critchley and Craig Halkett, who did the newspaper press today. But I think for this game, I think Hearts are a bit more switched on. I think they're a bit more shrewd in comparison to the last time. I think they've got a lot more streetwise players than they did the last time. Let's be honest, they were in the Championship the last time, and what it was, without sounding disrespectful, a very poor Championship league that they won at a canter. So I think lessons have been learned from the last time. I think Brie can have a chance. I wouldn't say it's. I never say never. Obviously, Darvel is great. Significance to suggest that shocks can happen, but I think at the same time as well, I think you see it. I think Hearts have enough professionalism about them to go win. The only thing I would maybe say from a Hearts point of view is they maybe don't score enough goals, but that'll be interesting to see how they approach that, because they're very, very good defensively as of recently, but they're not scoring enough goals, and that would be my only caveat to that question.
Do you think Hearts will go full strength, Steve, or do you think they'll try and throw a few players in?
It's funny you say that, Regan, because Graham Duffy, he wasn't on the podcast, but he was listening to the Hearts Standard last night, and run by Joel Sked and Craig Cairns, and there was a point made about how he was predicting the team, and I think there'll be at least 8 of the 11 players playing now. Zander Clark signed a new contract on Wednesday there, and I think he'll play. I think he'll come in instead of Craig Gordon now. I think from that perspective, just to come on to that point, I think Zander Clark will take over from Craig Gordon next season. I think this will be the final swan song for Gordon, just in terms of everything that's happened and everything that seems to be happening in recent weeks. Regan, I think so. I think Zander Clark will play. I think defensively they'll still be the same. It's a striker that I'm interested about, because
in terms of that question, Dave spoke about the Craig Gordon there. Did you manage to see the podcast this week? A former St Johnstone player said that Craig Gordon was very close to joining St Johnstone.
I didn't see it, actually, is the honest truth. Alex, I'm still trying to reacclimatise, but in general terms, it was. I know there was talk about it some time back. Whether that's true or not, I've no idea. The players generally don't have a clue what's going on, so I would take that with a pinch of salt.
All right, Graham, it's good to see you on.
All right, how's it going?
Graham, guess where I'm at?
Just talking about.
Guess where I'm at?
You're in breaking. I've been listening.
Oh, okay.
So, Graham, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm still recovering from having a bit of a viral infection, so I'm getting there though. Kind of back to normality a bit.
So we're just talking there on the first match of the weekend, Friday night. Obviously, Dave's there, as you've seen. It seems to be very, very busy, Graham. Everybody's beating the horns and everything, but in terms of this match tonight, what are you expecting, Graham?
I'm hoping we're professional and we get this job done. It's going to be tough. We haven't actually, I was looking at the stat earlier, we've not scored more than 2 goals in a game since Neil Critchley's first game in charge against St Mirren. We scored 4. We don't score enough goals. I heard Dave mention that earlier, we don't score enough goals. We need to treat this game right. I would probably make about 3 or 4 changes. I heard Dave there talking about the Hearts Standard thing yesterday. I don't know if Zander Clark's fit. He was injured last week against Aberdeen, so he wasn't on the bench. Ryan Fulton was. But I wouldn't make too many changes because we need to be professional in this game. You know, they've got experience Brecon City with Kevin McCarthy, Brad Mackay, Killian Sheridan. They've got experience. They can cause problems. And I know how hard a higher league team can be because we got knocked out by Brora a few seasons ago. So that still lingers long in my memory. So this game is apprehension. But if we treat it right, we should be okay.
Yeah, Graham, have you got a score prediction for the game then?
I've just said we don't score more than 2 goals in a game, but I'm going to go 3-0 optimistically.
Who starts up front for you tonight, Graham?
Elton Kabangu for me. I thought he looked quite sharp when he came off the bench against Aberdeen, and I think Wilson needs a rest. He's been carrying us for weeks. He's done a great job, But I think this is a game that I think Cabangu probably should start for me.
Graham, I've obviously missed Scottish football for about a month. So what exactly is the situation? Which I may say I've not been too upset about given my team's results. But what is the position with Shankland? What's the sort of feeling at Hearts just now about him amongst the supporters?
I think it's one of frustration over the course of the season, and as well, it's the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with him. There's apparently a club in Turkey after him. I don't know if they're going to put in a bid or not. I don't know. But I'll be honest, I think Dave mentioned it earlier. We haven't actually missed him in the last few weeks. I think we've actually been all right without him, to be fair. But I think he'll probably go in the summer for nothing, which is a blow. If we'd have sold him last season, we'd have got a lot of money for him. We won't get anywhere near what we would have done now because he's not scoring enough goals. So yeah, I think he'll probably go for nothing in the summer.
Right.
I'll catch us later, guys. But good to see you.
Enjoy the game, mate.
Well, Dave, good to see you, pal.
I'll be in touch, guys.
Cheers.
Graham, do you think Hearts could genuinely lose in this window, or do you think the injury's that bad?
I don't think it's bad. I mean, it was talked about maybe a few weeks, and actually Neil Critchley did say yesterday that he is getting closer to return, but he's not quite there yet. So I reckon probably another 2 weeks and he'll be back. I would be surprised if he left this window. Now, there's only, 2 weeks left of the window? There's been no bid so far. Like I said, there's a team in Turkey apparently looking at him, but I don't know if they've put a bid in yet. But I think he'll be here till at least the summer. And it's a strange one, though, because I'm a massive Lawrence Shankland fan, as everyone knows, but this season, he's been miles off where he was last season. I don't know why that is. You know, he's been... If you look at last season, he got 31 goals. And this season, he's snatching at stuff that he didn't do last season. He's not kind of got that killer instinct this season. And it kind of coincides with how bad Hearts have been. Because I'll be honest, I said this last season. We don't finish third if Shankland doesn't score the goals he does. Now he's not scoring. Look at where we are. So there's a big correlation with that.
Yeah, and obviously, after in terms of this game, you obviously know about shocks in the cup. But do you see a shock being able to happen tonight, Alistair? Or?
No, I think let's put it this: we played Brecon quite a few years ago now, actually, in the Scottish Cup, 1-7-0. I think if Hearts get an early goal, I think Hearts could. You won't have any. I think you'll beat Critchley's record. I think you might even get 5 if they score early and maybe get a couple of goals early in the game. I think you'll find that Hearts will win comfortably. You do get shocks. You know, we talked about them earlier on, but Hearts have had their shock, and I hope I'm not tempting fate for you, Graham, but I cannot see anything other than a convincing Hearts victory here. More so, I think, even than Aberdeen and Elgin. I think Hearts, if they score early, that's the one proviso I'd make. Like any game like this, if it goes to half-time and it's 0-0, then people start getting twitchy. But a couple of early goals and Hearts will win by. I will not be surprised if it's 5.
I know you're the locker room Hearts supporter, Graham. So is there anything else you want to touch on about Hearts? Because I've not seen you for a few weeks.
No, I just think it's been a very frustrating season for us. We all know that. We shouldn't be in the position we're in. And it's weird that the last few weeks have actually played a lot better, but haven't actually moved anywhere. You know, we're still 11th, haven't actually played quite well. But that kind of just shows how tight the league is. And again, you're looking at the league table. And I think I mentioned to somebody else as well. As bad as we've been, we're only 5 points off the top 6. So we could still conceivably finish in the top 6, which is crazy to think about given the season we've had. But I just think there is definitely an improvement under Neil Critchley. I still think we need at least another probably 3 or 4 more signings in. And there's a lot need to go as well. Andrew McKinley had an interview today on Hearts TV that lasted 45 minutes, which I did watch the whole thing. And he did say that Neil Critchley has said that the squad's still too big. There are still players need to come off that wage bill. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in and out of this window. But I think things are looking a bit more positive than they have been the last few weeks.
Yeah, you bought a lot of, your previous manager bought an awful lot of players. And I think given the financial pressures on Scottish football, here's a thought. This is left field. It's nothing whatsoever to do with the cup. But I was saying earlier on, I don't know whether you heard, Graham, or not, I was in a meeting yesterday with some fairly senior people, and the point was made about the national insurance and the impact that's going to have on clubs' finances when it kicks in next year. Well, this year is massive. you're looking at 6-figure sums for the big clubs. Even for the figure that was quoted to me for a team in the third tier of Scottish football was 30 grand off their bottom line. So the financial pressures the managers are under are going to be even more ramped up by the end of this year. And I think most fans are probably not even thinking about that because, let's be honest, fans don't think about things like national insurance. But that's going to have a significant financial hit on every club.
Yeah, and I think obviously, Graham, the transfer window's still open. Are you still hoping that you can sign a few players, or what's the situation?
Yeah, we need, for me, we still need a left winger, a right winger, another striker now that Liam Boyce is gone. And I'd like to see a kind of playmaking midfielder in, because most of our midfielders are very similar. The likes of Devlin, Benjamin Ingame, Boateng, they're all very more defensive. I'd like to see a real ball player in there. And then I'd like to see a few players go out as well. The likes of George Grant, Barry Mackay, get them off the wage bill. I'll be honest, I was furious with George Grant's penalty miss last week. I was raging with that. And I made my feelings quite known about that.
I was like, you're going to be raging here.
No, I was furious. I didn't think it was a good penalty. A few folk have said it's a great save. I thought it was a good height for the keeper. I didn't think it was a good penalty at all. But, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the season we won't be relegated. If we're relegated, then we're in serious trouble. I think we'll get out of that.
There's no chance of you being relegated.
No, I don't think so either, but I've seen a few folks saying Hearts will go down. I genuinely do not believe that. And that's not me being biased. I just don't believe we will.
Listen, there is no chance of you going down, Graham, because currently there's only one team that's going down, and that's not going to change. And whoever is 11th is far too strong. Even if it's Ross County, they're far too strong for whoever's going to be coming up to play them from the Championship. So there is no danger, unless you have a sort of Devon Lock style fall from grace and half your players go down with COVID or something. It's just not going to happen. I do think you're right, though. The point about the fact that the gap being only 5 points, it is so tight. And apart from us falling away, if we'd actually, if we weren't so rubbish, then we would probably be in amongst the pack as well. So who's going to finish the top 6? Look at Hibs. If you go back not that long, a month ago, would you have thought Hibs have any chance of being the top 6? None. So
I want to quickly say a couple of things before I kind of head off to watch the Hearts game. But obviously, I was listening earlier, and the point about Aaron Donnelly not celebrating, I thought that was a joke. He didn't play for Celtic. Fair enough, you support Celtic, but you still celebrate when you score against them. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that at all. And the other thing I was going to say as well is I noticed as well that I think was it last week, there was protests at St McDermott Park about, I think it was maybe St Johnstone Board. I really feel sorry for Valakari because I've said it before. I think he's a really good manager. I think he's trying to play a style of football that maybe just won't work for St Johnstone, but he needs his own players on. I think if St Johnstone stay up this season, then that'll be a massive, massive compliment to Valakari. But I don't know what. I mean, I'm not talking about Alistair. I'm talking about the St Johnstone fans. I don't know what St Johnstone fans expect. They don't have the money to sign a load of really quality players. I think they've got to back Valakari because I think he will get it right because I like the style of football. He just doesn't have the players to complement what he wants to try and do.
Yeah, obviously, me and Alistair will get on to in a minute. But just before you go, Graham, do you think this could be Hearts' year for the Scottish Cup?
Oh, mate, I would love that. 2012 was the last one. I was at that game. And
I remember it, 5-1.
It's the most nervous I've ever been in my life for a game. And we ended up winning it quite comfortably. So, yeah, I would love to win the Cup. But, it just depends on the draws. If we get past Brecon and then get Celtic in the next round, we're probably out. So if we get a decent draw, we've got a chance.
I think the chances, it's extremely likely to win the Cup because probably Celtic will, unless they have some disaster. But on their day, Hearts are good enough. I mean, your comments about Valakari are interesting because he comes across really well. He's almost too honest. He says things which you don't expect managers to say, such as, we can't attract players because we're 9 points adrift. That's the truth. Managers don't say things like that. They say things like, oh, yeah, we've still got a chance. You look at the guys he's bringing on trial, they look like they might be quite good. Now, if you look at the finances of the club, we've actually turned around a loss and made a profit. Now, we've still got several £1 million in the bank, so we're actually really not badly off at all. But and you've heard me say this for quite a long time on this show, the problem goes back to Steve Brown and the mismanagement under his stewardship and Craig Levein. Some Saints fans are saying if Craig Levein was still there, we wouldn't be in the position we're in. That's possibly true, but we'd also be topping ourselves from the eye-bleedingly bad football that we've been watching. It's the worst football I've ever seen at St Johnstone. I include the times when we were way down the bottom of the Scottish leagues. At least then you were trying to compete. It was terrible under Craig Levein. And he's left the club with players who are just, there's no winger, there's no width. The defenders are just not up to it. He didn't sign a goalkeeper. He didn't have a goalkeeper coach until about the week before he got the bullet. I could go on and on and on about it. And people might say, yeah, you sound like Michael Stewart. You got
no, I've never met I think you're spot on there, because I've never met a manager that's never had a goalkeeping coach.
Well, he didn't have a goalkeeping coach until literally a week before he left. And Valkyrie's made one or two mistakes, but I think most Saints fans, certainly ones I've spoken to, we're trying to play football, but we haven't got. You're absolutely right, Graham. He hasn't got the players to play the style he wants, and I don't know what the situation. We've got the AGM on the 24th, so I don't know whether the new owner's coming across. I don't know how his cancer treatment's going. I believe it's okay. That's the word we're hearing. It's not too bad, but we kind of need to sort of see where we're going, because you almost think if it carries on like this, and I'd get beat tomorrow to take 3 points off Motherwell the next week. I would happily lose tomorrow if we could get 3 points the next week, because all you've got to do is somehow or other get 2 wins and hope Ross County don't, because they're the team you've got to catch, not Hearts, and then all of a sudden we've got Ross County coming up and you could actually start, but that's pie in the sky. I'm watching, pink elephants or whatever flown by the window. Anyway, Valakari, I would stick with him. He's got a good track record. He says the right things. I think the fans, by and large, like him. He's trying to play football, which is more than we were watching before.
Well, apparently tonight, from what I saw, and I don't know if this is true, it might be, but apparently tonight in the commentary team doing the game tonight is Craig Levein. So that'll be a laugh.
Yeah, I think that is true, Graham. I think I heard that because he was the director of football at both Brecon and Hearts.
And did a rubbish job at both.
Yeah, well, he obviously brought Andy Kirk with him as well, the Saints, and you've said this before. I mean, you wouldn't mind Kirk in your team now if he was back at his peak.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy who would certainly improve most teams, So, I don't know. I think, well, I'm sure we'll talk about the Saints game later on. I going back to your game tonight, Graham, I genuinely think that if you get a couple of goals, you'll score a lot. I really do. The gap between Highland League and a top level Premiership team, both playing at their peak, the Premier team is going to win by at least 3 goals.
It should be, but as I said, I've still got Brora in my head. They're living rent-free in my head.
Listen, I can remember getting beat by Stenhousemuir, and that wasn't particularly good. Aberdeen got beat. I think Aberdeen got beat by Stenhousemuir the same season, if I remember correctly.
1995.
Your memory's better than mine. It was horrific. And we just get beat. We got beat 4-0.
I wasn't even born yet.
So,
all right.
The chances of you getting beat 4-0 tonight, Graham, I would like to know what the bookies' odds on that are. Might be worth a wee punt.
Alistair, obviously you've been away in Argentina for a few weeks. I hope you have a good time. But obviously, it was probably a good thing you're away in Argentina, because St Johnstone have been so bad to watch.
Well, bearing in mind this is a family show, I cannot possibly use the words which I was using when I was watching the results coming in. And bear in mind that the problem was that I was looking at it at 12 o'clock Argentina time, thinking, well, we're 2-0 going down already, It's horrendous. It's really, really poor defending. If you want a good laugh, go and look at my friend Gordon Muir on Facebook, who's a massive Saints fan, and look at his rants about the team. They're very entertaining. They are extremely rude, but they're well worth a laugh if you want to go and sort of entertain yourself for 5 minutes. I don't know. You tell me, you guys, you're watching. Let's not kid ourselves. St Johnstone are going to get relegated, barring some kind of fine intervention.
But then the kind of devil's advocate side of me goes, well, look at what Jim Goodwin did with Dundee United. They he stayed on there when they got relegated and they brought them straight back up. You think that's something St Johnstone board will look at?
I would be very surprised if they got rid of Valakari. I think they'll be planning now. The problem is if we get relegated, lots of people lose their jobs, at the club. That's the reality. You're looking at people losing their jobs, which is, don't get me wrong, that happens when clubs go down, not just with us, but lots of other clubs as well. But you don't want, and I know quite a lot of these people, and you don't want to see them losing their jobs. We've just bought really bad. As a friend of mine said, we're so far down the U-bend, you'd require the whole of down the road UK to get us back out again. I cannot see us staying up unless there is some kind of miracle. And let's be honest, it's not going to happen. If you looked at any other club that far behind at this stage, you cannot see where the points are coming from because you can't see us not giving away goals. I've just seen it. I think I've got problems. Here's the Rangers fan saying if Big Phil stays in charge, Rangers will go down. I think that, I'll tell you what, I'll swap you. If Rangers go down, that'd be brilliant. We'll stay up, but I don't think there's much chance of that. So,
I think in terms of St Johnstone, Alison, you'll know it better than me, but I think fans are just realistic to know that St Johnstone are not in the best place financially, as Graham was saying there about trying to bring in quality, but I think the manager's getting the best out of the players that he possibly is able to at the minute.
A lot of fans are not so sure about his team selection. I mean, financially, we're actually, the irony is that financially we're probably better off than most other clubs of our status in the Premier League. We've actually got a couple of million quid in the bank. Stan Harris did a phenomenal job in turning the finances around last year. We went from a loss of 2 million, which was put through as 1.6 due to moving some money around, to actually making a 6-figure profit this year. That is a staggering achievement. And we did that by cutting back on everything we could. We've got a new owner who has got a bit of cash, but who, unfortunately, poor man, is unwell. So how that's all going to pan out, I don't know. We just don't have the... It's Craig Leveing's legacy. He's lumbered us with players who are, quite frankly, not up to it. He's brought in players who are championship at best. And I think Valakari has been trying to somehow or other find a combination, and he hasn't found it. The strikers have gone off the boil. Kimpioka said he's leaving. Since he said he's leaving, he's not scored a goal. Sidibe had the flu, so he wasn't playing last weekend. He's not scored since August, I don't think. And these are guys who obviously can score goals. The one shining light is Mackenzie Kirk. He looks like he's going to score goals for us. We've got no width. Before I go and talk myself, I mean, it's just, I've seen Saints get relegated before, but not for a long time, and I can just see the same pattern. It's a team bereft of confidence. It's a team whose fans are actually reasonably tolerant, but I think tomorrow against Motherwell, they're taking about 1,700 fans through, and they'll be quite confident of winning. And as I said earlier on, I would quite happily have a good performance. Don't care about the result if we get beat. We're then playing Motherwell in the league the next week. If we beat them in the league, that's all I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of, like, when you look at St Johnstone, Alistair, I mean, there's still hopeful to get a few players in, or?
Yeah, no, we've signed this Panamanian, who I think may be the first Panamanian to play in Scottish football. Not sure, but we've basically signed midfielders. I mean, that's the thing. The guys we're looking at are basically unknowns. That sadly is the reality. We genuinely are not sure what they're like. Now, every Saints fan will tell you that we need defenders, and there's no sign of any defenders coming on board. And it's really hard to attract defenders when your team's 9 points at the bottom of the table. It's just
I want to get your thoughts on there, because you said to Graham about half an hour ago that obviously Valakari mentioned it's very hard to attract players. Do you respect him saying that, or do you think he shouldn't be saying that?
I'm not sure. I really like the way he's honest. He's incredibly honest. You know, he doesn't take blame. He doesn't blame referees, which is a really refreshing thing to do. He doesn't blame his players individually. He's obviously working really hard. I mean, the one interesting guy we've got, I've just actually seen that we've signed a defender from Sheffield United, but we've got Roman Eremenko, who's the brother of the guy who played for Kilmarnock. Now, he was
a great player at Eremenko.
Great player, but this is his brother who was an even better player. He went for £13 million during his career. Yep. He's Finnish, so obviously there's a connection there. He's 30.
He's not Finnish, he's Scottish.
Oh, right, okay, right. Right. Well, he's a Finnish Scot, but Connor Smith left the club, who I know Graham used to really rate at Hearts. He's gone to Hamilton. We've signed another midfielder. Don't know anything about him, to be honest. And the guy we've signed is a 19-year-old defender from Sheffield United. So, you know, he's a right back. We desperately need a right back. I'm conscious that people don't actually. I'm interested in the way Sarah did say Kirk would be good. Kirk is good. I mean, Kirk is. I wasn't sure of him at first, but he's going to score a lot of goals for us. I'm conscious people don't want to hear about St Johnstone all night, and also me whining and complaining and crying at my beer about how rubbish we are. But we're going to get relegated, barring some kind of divine miracle, and I just can't see it happening. But we'll go along and watch them and see how they get on. And I think, to answer your question very briefly, yes, they'll stick with Valakari. Yes, I think he's right to be honest about stuff because it's refreshing. And and also I do think that we've got a reasonable chance of coming back, but it's not going to be easy. So, on the other hand, if you're a Motherwell fan, you're probably going there tomorrow thinking, right, that's us through the next round of the cup.
The only other way to play devil's advocate here, though, is Alistair, is the Motherwell's got a lot of injuries themselves.
Yes, they do. Yeah, I was talking to Stephen Reside, and he was saying that. He didn't say he thought that would mean they'd lose. They do have a lot of injuries. I think a lot of clubs have got, well, not just injuries, it's a sort of flu season, and there's people out with viruses and all that kind of stuff as well. So we've lost too many games against teams in the last couple of minutes. We did that against Motherwell earlier on in the season at Perth. So you never know, it might be a good game, but I'm not travelling with a lot of hope. Let's put it like that, you know.
Are you heading there tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going tomorrow. Yeah, and I've got to pay for it because it's not under my season ticket, obviously. So we'll go and we'll travel as usual in expectation, but I'm not saying what that expectation is.
Have you got your prediction now? I think I'll go. 2-1 to St Johnstone.
That's very kind of you, Regan. I would, like I said, I would actually settle for a good performance. That's more mind. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw on it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw. I cannot see us winning outright, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw at the end of 90 minutes.
A draw, and then that would mean extra time and penalties. So and
if it goes to penalties, then lottery, you know. We've got a new goalkeeper. That's the other thing. We've got a new goalkeeper, which we did. Now, again, from what I gather, he played quite well against Rangers, and I just think that's something we've needed all season. We've got two 23-year-olds who are not bad, but they're not, you know, Xander Clark. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, obviously the big thing that this person's doing here, St Johnstone have experienced of winning the cups. You starting to dream again, Alistair? Because obviously during COVID, St Johnstone were the serial team to pick up all the trophies.
Well, at the risk of upsetting Graham, if he's still watching, I think it's still the case that we're probably second after Celtic in the last decade for winning cups. So that's that. Dare I dream? To be honest, one would have done me. I could have died happily after one. The fact we've got three, that might, well, I'm not dreaming at all. The only thing I might dream about is somehow or other we sign, I don't know, Messi decides to come to St Johnstone because he actually quite fancies living in Scotland for a bit, and Neymar, instead of going to America, decides to come to St Johnstone. No, I'm not prepared to dream of anything other than hopefully the weather will be good and it'll be a reasonable journey through, and I'll see my mates and I'll have a good time, and then we'll see how the game goes.
Yeah, I mean, Alistair, I think in terms of Motherwell, they'll be disappointed what happened last week obviously at the capital, but I think Motherwell's done pretty well the last few weeks.
They have. I mean, Stephen was saying to me that they can't score goals either, but Motherwell have had a good enough season. I mean, you keep going back to that spell last season when there were 15 games without a victory, and I just think you look at it and you think that's a team that's stuck by its manager. You go back to the point about Valakari, and also, you know, people saying Rangers should get rid of Big Phil and all that kind of stuff. Rangers have got lots of problems as well. I don't think we have massive problems behind the scene. Motherwell, I don't think either particularly. I think Motherwell are fine. They're going to end up mid-table somewhere, probably in the bottom six, but they're not going to be in any danger of relegation because they've got enough quality to win games. It's so tight that you can look at Hearts, Hibs, Dundee, St Mirren, everybody, even Dundee United, who sorry, Dundee United fans watching, I think are in a slightly false position, but that's because their confidence is getting them through games. Also, I think there's slight danger they might lose the boy that's scoring all the goals for them, because I think his club are looking at
Sam Dolby, yep.
Yeah, I think they're looking at bringing him back. But anybody can beat anybody on their day. Outside Celtic, by and large. Even Rangers are not immune. If Rangers are off, as we've seen in the last, while I was away, losing to St Mirren and whatnot, they're nowhere near Celtic in terms of their consistency and quality. So, long-winded way of saying, Reagan, that actually Motherwell are fine, and I just think it's going to come down to, we'll see some quite interesting but a lot of very boring league games. Tomorrow being the Cup makes it a lot more interesting because there's the danger of an upset, and you look at it and you think Ross County v Livingston, there's a potential upset, but it's at home. If it was at Livingston, I'd have said there was more chance there'd be an upset. Hibs v Clydebank, can't see it there. Elgin v Aberdeen, can't see it there. If I'm wrong, Graham, if you're still watching and we've got and Hearts get to half-time and it's 0-0 and you're biting your fingernails off, I still think you'll win. You'll win ugly maybe, but I think Hearts could actually steamroller Brecon if they get a good start. And that applies more so than Aberdeen. So we shall see. But the Cup gives you a chance to forget about all the pressure of the league.
Don't know about you, Alistair, but I think the tie of the weekend is actually on Sunday. I think the tie of the weekend is Falkirk and Raith Rovers.
Yeah, I mean, Falkirk, we've just had the Scottish Football Supporters Association Fans Awards, which I'm going to be on Off the Ball at the end of the month announcing the winners, and there was a lot of votes for the Falkirk manager, unsurprisingly. I'm not telling you who's winning it because there's lots of votes for lots of people because there was thousands of entries, but Falkirk are a very good team who I'll be staggered if they're not in the Premier next year. How they'll get on there, I think that might be a bit more interesting. But just now, Raith Rovers in the day have got some good players. But I think the fact that Falkirk really have been the form team for the last two seasons, I think that's it could be a good game. I mean, I look at the card and I think, what games stand out, and then you look at what's on the telly, and what's on the telly because it's going to be, dare I say it, it's going to be, the big clubs. And I get why Sky and people like that, they have to go where the audience is. They have to go where they can get new subscribers. They've got to go and do that for commercial reasons. The BBC, as a public service broadcaster, could actually look at that and go, you know what? The best game there is, for the sake of argument, Queen of the South versus St Mirren. Queen of the South could be, there's a, on their day, St Mirren should win it, but it's at Queen of the South. That might be an entertaining game to go to. Celtic v Kilmarnock is obviously the one that stands out. If it was at Kilmarnock, I'd have said Kilmarnock had a chance. The fact that it's at Celtic, I don't think they do.
Is there any games that stand out for you? Because the one I'm going to go on to is the one at Easter Road.
Sorry,
Alistair. I'm just going to say, see in terms of Clydebank, do you think they've got a genuine chance, or do you see the
Well,
quality?
everybody, one of the oldest cliches, it's 11 against 11, isn't it? I mean, yes, they have a chance. Will they win? No. If there's an upset anywhere, and this is just, looking at the Premiership teams against other teams, I think it's probably more likely. I have a sneaking suspicion Queen of the South will give St Mirren a difficult game. I remember the year after we won the Cup, so it was 2015, we went down to Queen of the South and we got beat 2-0. And okay, they're not such a good team now, but the fact it's down there on their plastic pitch, Premiership teams don't like playing on those kind of pitches. Hamilton against Musselburgh is an interesting one. Again, it's much further down, but that's the kind of one where you really, no disrespect to Hamilton, which I know means lots of disrespect to Hamilton, but it would be brilliant to see Musselburgh or somebody get through and then get Rangers or Celtic or, something like that. Because you don't have that opportunity in Scotland compared to England. In England, you get these amazing games like Tamworth playing against Spurs and actually give them a really good game.
I was stressed out last week, Alistair. Stressed out. And I nearly threw the remote of the telly.
Tamworth played really well, from what I gather.
And that was just because Alan McCoy kept going, I've got to say, said that about 200 times.
Yeah, but is that not what you want from the Cup? I mean, you want your team to go through, but there's a question for you as a Celtic fan. What's the biggest Celtic upset? There's not a big I can think of off the top of my head.
Celtic and Clyde.
Clyde, oh yes, I remember that, yes.
And probably one that I remember being at is when Celtic played Inverness.
Oh, of course.
I think the other ones. It's a different competition, but Celtic played the Gibraltar champions,
Right.
Lincoln Redhams.
Yeah. They lost to Morton in the League Cup, I think, quite a few
years.
They
did under Neil Wynn or Ronnie Dyler, 1-0.
Yeah. The Super Caligo ballistic one. My neighbour was a Celtic. Well, this is when I lived at Uddingston. Was a Celtic fan, and he took his wee boy to his first game, right, thinking this will be a turkey shoot, right? And his wee boy was probably too wee to entirely understand football. So after the game, the way to get chips, right? So, and Joe's the wee boy, turned to his dad and said, isn't it nice that the wee team won for a change? This is a chippy full of Celtic fans who were like not very happy about it. It makes the cup more entertaining if there's some kind of shock. It really does. I mean, the chances of Fraserburgh beating Rangers are probably very small, but that's the kind of thing which everybody. No disrespect to Rangers fans at all, because it won't happen. But if it did, or if Clydebank beat Hibs, that's a that'll be the headline on the papers, much more than anything else.
Yeah, obviously, I quite enjoy the Scottish junior football, Alistair. I don't know if you enjoy it yourself, but I quite enjoy watching it. I go and watch like Pollock and Rob Roy and St Rocks. I go and watch quite a lot of teams. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Clydebank get on.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't really watch juniors. I mean, I know people who do. I know I've got a friend who goes to see Pollock quite a lot. He's a Rangers fan, but he's really a Pollock fan, if you know what I mean. And then my good friend John Litster, he lives down south, but he comes up for the cup final every year, and he's I think I've talked to him before. He is the number one historian of Scottish football, and he's written a book about 50 years of watching the game in Scotland, and it talks about going to see Rutherglen, Glencairn, and all these kind of clubs when he grew up. And he comes from Kirkcaldy, but he grew up in Rutherglen. And he'll come up, he'll go and see the cup final, he'll go and see all the playoffs, and he'll go and see as many junior games as he can. And obviously living in Ayrshire, it's a big, big deal here, So,
yeah,
sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, because you've got so many teams there. You've got Troon, you've got Auchinleck, you've got
Glenafton and all these kind of... Bravo. One of my football claims to fame is I actually played in my corporate days. We used to play against the Co-op Coffin Factory. You know, the Co-op's got a big coffin factory out just past Ibrox.
Yeah.
We used to play. They had a team which had a couple of ex-junior players, and we used to get a sort of scratch team together from our company. And cut a long story short, my boss knew Ruffy, who was the manager of Glenafton at the time. So basically, Ruffy got all of Glenafton, and we put the 3 guys from our company into the Glenafton team, and that was when they were winning the Junior Cup at that time. You know, so they had guys who'd played Premiership football, and Ruffy played outfield, didn't play in goal. They were really good footballers. They really were. Sorry, we're going way off tangent. I know that.
No.
But it was fascinating to actually. I remember it was Alec Kennedy who played for Partick Thistle. He was playing for them at that time, and I remember he went to clear the ball out of our box, and it was just this shout of Alex's ball, and his professional head took over. Nothing was stopping him getting that ball out of the box. Nothing was going to get in his way, which he did, and he clattered the forward while he was at it. Graham says he's going to watch Pennycook tomorrow. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't know whether you're like this, Graham, or indeed Regan. If you're driving if you're a real football fan, you're driving your car, you come up to a set of traffic lights beside a football park, and they're taking a corner, and you sit and watch the corner being taken rather than going through the traffic lights.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So, just going back to the upsets, then you asked about Clydebank. I mean, any other upsets you can see there?
It probably wouldn't be an upset, but probably. Maybe Stenhousemuir to beat Dunfermline, but I don't know if that would be an upset.
I'm not sure it would be an upset now. I must admit, given the way Dunfermline season's going.
Am I right in saying Stenhousemuir won their first league title last year? How did they do this year?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I honestly don't know. I suppose you'll have a quick look on another screen and see what they say. Somebody will doubtless tell us, but.
And probably the other one, like you said, the other would be David Martindale to go up to Ross County and win, but I don't think it would be a particular upset because Ross County are near the bottom. But Graham's come back in with his suggestion.
Elgin for Aberdeen. I've said earlier on I think Aberdeen will win, but Dave wasn't so sure. Steny top of League One. Okay, there you go. Right. Well, here's interesting fact about Stenhousemuir. You know, I come up with all these really boring historical things. What were Stenhousemuir the first club in Scotland to have?
A main stand.
Nope. I'll give you one more guess if you want. It's something that every club has nowadays. You've got to have it. You've got to have it for the fans.
For the fans.
And indeed for health and safety and all sorts of things.
Water.
Well, that's true. It was a PA system.
Oh, close. No.
They were the first people and the first, or have I got that wrong? Maybe it was floodlights. Can't remember. I think it was a PA system. Because or it might be. You know what? I'll go and check it up for the next time I'm on the show. It was either a PA system or floodlights. It was one of the two. But I do know that the reason I know this is because the first game that was played with either a PA system or floodlights was against St Johnstone. That's why I know.
Yeah, obviously, I suppose we should probably get on to talk about Brockburn against Ayr. I mean, Ayr have just started to do really well in the Championship again.
Yeah, they had a wee blip, and they'll win. They are playing well. They've obviously won again at the weekend. Broxburn. I can see this. Again, this is just conjecture, but I cannot see Broxburn doing well against Ayr because Ayr are in too good form just now. And will they go up? I think it's going to be really hard because I think Falkirk are probably going to win the league. Thereafter, as I was saying when Graham was on, if any of those teams, the sort of top part of the championship, are playing against a Premier team, let's just say, for the sake of argument, to upset Graham, that it's Hearts and they carry on not climbing the table. There's no way Hearts are going to lose to Ayr. Not over 2 games. Not with this, not given the number of games they would have to play to get there. But that doesn't alter the fact that they've obviously doing much better than they were, and I think they'll win quite comfortably against Broxburn.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in terms of the other matches, the only other one I could possibly see would be Dumbarton beating Airdrie, because Airdrie have been really bad this season, Alistair.
They have, but Dumbarton, of course, have been absolutely hammered with the points deduction, so they're bottom of their table, and what their confidence must be like, I do not know. And obviously, that's made a huge difference to them. And I think if you look at that league, Inverness, I know we're going away from the cup again, but Inverness might well actually get out of it despite their points deduction, because Dumbarton are so far anchored at the bottom. I think it's 15 points deduction they had. But Airdrie, you're right, Airdrie have been very, very poor. And I was surprised at that, because a lot of people thought that Rhys McCabe was a sort of up-and-coming manager. A lot of Saints fans quite fancied him as a manager, but for whatever reason, it's just gone really wrong.
Alistair, I thought Michael was going to be on, so I think we'll just run to about 6:30 if that's all good with you.
That's absolutely fine, not a problem at all. I know that Michael's getting his mum's coming out of hospital, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, I knew that you could only be on until 6, but I'm glad that you've stayed on for an extra minute.
Oh, you're fine. I can stay on for another 10 minutes or so if that's okay.
No problem.
If you don't mind me coming up with all these banal figures about tannoys and floodlights and all that kind of stuff,
No problem at all. I think we'll move on to the matches on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of Rangers Fraserburgh, I suppose the only real benefit of this match is Fraserburgh get a good payday. But I mean, I don't know, and I suppose in terms of a lot of the Fraserburgh players will be Rangers supporters, or they'll like be glad to play Ibrox at Alistair, because I don't really see a shock coming here.
Well, no, I can't see a shock coming up. I mean, the only shock was that tell you what would have been a shock if the BBC hadn't. Oh, it is the BBC that's shown it, isn't it? If the TV companies had decided not to show it. Here's a thought for you: instead of being Rangers fans, what about the Fraserburgh players being Dons fans? Because it's well known that Aberdeen, despite their pretty poor performance against Rangers the other night, normally that is as hard a derby as, well, it's not a derby as such, but it's as hard a game as Rangers Celtic. Aberdeen really do not like Rangers, and that sort of animosity was missing in their performance. You would never have had that under Alex Ferguson going to Ibrox. So if they're all Dons fans, they might actually give Rangers more of a game than Aberdeen did. You never know.
I think Aberdeen were very disappointing, but I'm just glad that some of these players get to walk out on the Ibrox pitch, because I'm not sure what the crowd would be in a local match in Fraserburgh, but I don't imagine it would be a big number.
No, they're a very, very well long-established, club in the Highlands. So, albeit it's not really the Highlands, that part of the world, but you're right. I think for those kind of players, they get the chance to get to play against these teams. And you're right, there'll be 1 or 2 Rangers fans. The other thing, there'll be 1 or 2 Celtic fans, possibly, and they'll be right up for it as well, in a different way. In fact, I'm sure the press will probably be looking through the team lists, trying to find out who supports Rangers and Celtic to try and highlight that, just to make their lives even more entertaining on the day. But I've occasionally managed being allowed to walk out on pitches, not, I may say, with a pair of boots on. I remember going on Easter Road back in the day when they had the slope, and we stood in the halfway line and looked down at the slope, and I thought, dear me, that really is a slope. So there is a degree of excitement just even doing that as I was there at hospitality, it was before the game. So you're right. It must be phenomenally. I mean, you imagine walking out at any of the big clubs you get it in England, particularly, obviously, because of the size of, people want to play against Liverpool or Man United, but it's the same here. Rangers and Celtic, particularly because so many of the players will actually support one of the other teams. It makes a whole lot of sense, So I see there's a question here about sanctions. If there are any pyros at any of the games this weekend? I'm not aware of anything. Are you, Regan?
No, I'm not. But I did see it in the game. Was it Celtic played Dundee maybe last week, or Rangers played Dundee? And there was a lot of pyros in that game. And I was thinking about it because there needs to be something done now, Alistair. Surely these players or supporters getting into matches, surely they must be checked.
Well, we with my SFSA hat on, we are getting increasing numbers of emails from people, and I tell you what, it's really sad. And I've gone on about this at some length, and when we put stuff out social media, we've been pilloried because we get the ultras coming on and saying, giving us real grief. And the reality is, 5 people died in Germany due to pyros over New Year. I've seen things on social media. Yeah. That wasn't a games. That was fireworks, like we've seen in Edinburgh and things like that. But it's the same thing. It's fireworks, We've seen on social media in the last week or two people saying, nobody should ever not go home from a game. Somebody's going to go home from a game, or rather not going to go home from a game, because it's getting worse and worse and worse. And what I can definitely tell you is that not only are we getting more emails in saying, what can we do about this? What are the clubs doing about it? These people are going to their clubs, and the clubs are not paying any attention to them. And we've got emails from people saying, you know what, I'm not going to take my boy to football anymore. So you've got kids who are being denied the chance to enjoy football for the rest of their lives because of the behaviour of these guys. And I can tell you absolutely, the football authorities are really... I was at the round table, obviously, at the end of last year with the Scottish Government. There's going to be a lot more on this. How they do it? Do you bring in strict liability so the clubs are actually panned for it?
I would say there needs to be a stringent check to these youngsters or whoever's taking it in, because there seems to be no check.
Well, can I just answer that one again? Because again, this is maybe interesting for you. I mean, I know, having talked to the relevant authorities, if you take that semi-final Celtic Aberdeen when there was a huge pyro display, they obviously have some kind of intelligence about the kind of guys. You don't have to be daft. If they're all wearing black and got balaclavas, they look like they're potential suspects. So they did actually search some people, but the police don't help either, in my view, because the police don't want to get involved. The police are not prepared to police the games because they think it's going to cause a much bigger problem. That's the feedback I'm getting through Scottish Government and things like that. That, to my mind, is not acceptable. I think the other thing that's not acceptable is if fans go to their clubs, and I won't name the clubs concerned, but we've had a number of clubs mentioned, and say, look, I want to go to the game. I want to take my son to the game. I want to take my daughter to the game. But actually, I'm scared, and I'm not going to go back. And the clubs say, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. That's where the clubs somebody needs to do something now. If it's not the clubs, it's not the SFA, it'll be the politicians. Banning orders, making people scapegoats, don't care what you call it. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and somebody is going to get seriously hurt or indeed killed.
I think
we're too late. Yeah.
I think that's a good point you make in terms of what is it going to take for these people to actually learn that it's not a good thing. If you take Rangers and Celtic, for example, Rangers and Celtic have been told that if you do it again, you'll not be allowed into European matches away from home. I mean, Alistair, I'm not being all nostalgia with you here, but could you imagine a Rangers fan that's 60-year-old, Alistair, that's been going to all the games, and he's been told, well, you're not able to go because an absolute idiot, I can only call him that, it stopped me from going to the game because of a pyro.
Yeah, I genuinely, it's stick and carrot. There's I better be careful what I say here, because obviously I've got some side of knowledge of what's going on in terms of government and stuff on this. there's talk about campaigns on social media. I'm sorry, that's not going to make a blind bit of difference.
No,
You can put a campaign out saying, "Oh, don't do this, it's really bad, somebody might get hurt." These guys do not care. They do not care. And you could see that in the response to the League Cup final. Don't do it or else. You made the point about Europe. Celtic fans don't do it in Europe, as far as I'm aware, because they know they'll get not just fined, but banned. If the stick's big enough, they'll stop doing it. They've got cameras in all the grounds. I do not believe they cannot identify some of these people. We had all the riots last summer, which were absolutely cracked down upon by the UK government. And I think that will stop people doing it again. I cannot see until the clubs actually are prepared to take responsibility and go, right, we've got you guys on camera. You know what? You're banned for 10 years and we'll make sure you're banned and we'll circulate your details. And by the way, we're going to put you to the police because what you've done is actually a criminal offence. It is against the law to light pyros in a stadium. So until there's that kind of stick, it's not going to stop.
And do you know what annoys me as well, Alistair? It's all these young people at 10 and 12 at games that think, oh, it's a good idea because I see all my friends doing it. Now, all it takes is for one of them to lose control of that or to do anything. Then that's them lost a life or lost an eye or whatever else.
Well, as again, I said in the show before, I mean, I was at the game at McDermott where the Dundee fan who was 9 was within 2 inches of losing an eye. And these guys, a lot of them, as you say, are young. A lot of them are a wee bit older. And you know what? They're doing it to cock a snook at authority, to put it politely, because they can, because nobody's stopping them. And they think it looks good. And you look at what's happening in Europe with some of the clubs almost not being controlled by the ultras, but actually basically lying down and saying, look, we can't do anything about it. And there is no doubt, you don't have to search too far on Google to find the actual evidence of really quite bad criminal behaviour tied in with this stuff. So do we want to go down that road? I'm old enough to remember Scottish football when it was really bad, the violence, and we've actually improved it no end. And I want my grandchildren to be able to go to a game and not have to worry or be frightened or not want to go back. And you're right about the 60-year-old Rangers fan. I mean, why should he or she not be allowed to see their club because of the behaviour of somebody else who thinks it's a good idea to do something which, you know, produces a lot of toxic smoke?
Yeah, exactly. Alistair, I just want to finally go on to the Monday night game. We've not spoken about that. That's the Dundee derby. What do you make of that game?
I'm glad we've left this to the end because actually this is actually, I hope this is going to be a really good game.
Me as well.
We started off talking about Dundee at the top of the show, and you looked at how Dundee actually performed in their games against the Old Firm. They played in the first game of the season, if you remember, was Dundee United.
Yep.
And the Dundee fans that I know were surprised by how good United were because obviously they just come up. And I think Dundee might win this. I genuinely do, much as it pains me as a St Johnstone fan to say that. You've got Dundee United who are full of confidence, raced up the league. They've done miles better than I thought they would do. Dundee fans are saying, oh, well, yeah, they're punching above their weight. Well, the table doesn't lie. And they've got good players and they've got a goal-scoring threat, though, as we said earlier on. He might not be there much longer. I think this is the one game that, apart from going to see my own team, if I was told I'm allowed to go and see only one game this weekend, excluding the Saints game, that's the one I'd want to go and see. I think this could be a really good game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a cracker. I think, like you said, Sam Dolby's playing well. Dundee they've shown the last 2 weeks that they can compete with Rangers and Celtic. So I think overall it's going to be a cracking game. I'm going to go 2-1 to Dundee.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, I think they'll both score because you said United are scoring goals. You know what? I wouldn't disagree with that, Regan. I would probably say there'll be one goal in it. I can't see there being 3-2 type of thing. So 2-1 is quite a good shout. Can't see it being a draw. That means it'll be a boring 0-0 draw, but I can't see that happening. I just think the fact is at Dundee, there'll be a huge crowd. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, to be honest. I think it'll probably brighten my day after watching Saints get beat by Motherwell tomorrow.
As a bit of fun, Alistair, since it's the third round of the Scottish Cup, I'm going to ask you for your winner of the competition, so that me and you can look back at it at the end of May.
What means seriously? Who do you think I'm going to win? Well, I'm not a gambler, or very, very, very rarely. I would imagine if you looked at the bookies' forecast, they'll have Celtic as the out-and-out favourites, and I cannot see Celtic not winning it.
The only thing I would say to that is that if Celtic get a difficult draw like a Rangers away, Aberdeen away, then that could really open it up for the rest of the teams in there. I'm going to say Aberdeen win it.
I would not be upset. As I said, I lived in Aberdeen for a long time. I was there when they were at the peak of their powers under Alex Ferguson when they won the Cup Winners' Cup. And that Aberdeen team would win it quite comfortably in the current Scottish football climate. They were miles better than anybody that's on the go just now. I think you're right. It depends on the draw. Obviously depends on the draw. It depends whether they remember to heat the balls up so they keep Rangers and Celtic apart, he said cynically.
Alistair.
Depends how drunk Rod Stewart is when he does the draw.
Saying that, Alistair, do you know it was Rod Stewart's birthday this week?
Yeah, he was on TalkSport this morning. He was on TalkSport. Yeah, because they were talking. Alan Brazil was talking about, was he going to go to the Aston Villa Celtic game, and he can't because he's actually doing a charity concert. Fair play to him. He said he's doing 79 concerts this year, right? Yep. So he's looking for one more to make it 80 to tie in with his age. But he's doing a charity concert in Los Angeles for the guys who've lost their homes, which is a nice thing to do.
Yep, it definitely is. And on that note, Alison, I'll let you get back to your home.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Listen, thank you very much for having me on. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully, it wasn't too much about St Johnstone, but I will look forward to being on again next time I'm selected. And in the meantime, have a good weekend and hope your team wins.
Same to you, Alistair. Hopefully this time next week, guys, we'll have Michael back. I hope Michael's doing well, and it was great to see Graham on and Dave as well. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Thank you.
Okay, cheers.